Long ago, I, Joseph Huff, autistic lore master of Star Wars, devoured all content from the galaxy far, far away. Then, an arrogant mouse, wielding immense cash, stepped forth to mangle what millions already enjoyed. After many decisive blows had been struck, I tore myself from the current Star Wars media. I mean, besides Andor and Jedi Fallen Order. Those are pretty cool. But besides that, I have flung myself into past Star Wars content, where nostalgia and my eventual crash out is law. Now I plumb the depths of old content, foolishly hoping to change the present that is the mouse. Welcome to Retrospective Rants, with me, Joey Huff, as your host. If you haven't figured it out, I'm going to talk about Star Wars! Specifically, the Old Republic era of Star Wars, which is the best Star Wars. And yes, I am including the MMO, because Darth Marr is the man! But there are more than a few reasons for my love of the Old Republic era, which takes place many thousands of years before the movies. And I figured I'd talk about my top 5 right here. Let's go. My first reason for loving the Old Republic is that it's the most fantastical era of the space fantasy. The Jedi and Sith are out in full force instead of just being figures of obscurity and rumors. They're treated like the heroes in the Trojan War. They're an uncommon sight, but a very real and dangerous one. And while that does wonders for the action in these stories, it also lets us have many wonderful opportunities to explore one of the core aspects of Star Wars, that being the Force itself. We explore what it can do as a source of power, we see what its wielders go through as they interact with all the other facets of the galaxy, and of course we delve into the nature of the Force itself. Some of these stories, like Knights of the Old Republic 2, All Praise Chris Avallone, take a philosophical look at the Force, but that's for another episode. And with the Force and its wielders getting this much focus, the normie characters are hard-pressed to use every trick they have to suppress or even surpass Force users. Their crazy battle droids, personal shields, mutant monsters, and more are present in spades, and they're all made with loyalty to the Star Wars aesthetic and mythos in mind. The Old Republic really drives up both the fantasy and sci-fi elements, and that's wonderful for the eye to see and for the mind to wonder at. My second reason for loving the Old Republic are the aesthetics. The Star Wars aesthetic is preserved and enhanced throughout the Old Republic era. You can look at what key figures are wearing, even if the outfit is crazy, and instantly recognize them as Jedi or Sith or bounty hunters, smugglers, whatever. You can see spaceships, guess at the faction they're a part of, and enjoy the sheer scale and marvel at the role each craft plays. There's also a distinction between the ancient and more developing or evolving technologies of the era. If you read the comics depicting events even 1,000 years before the video games, you'll see ships that look kinda boxy and archaic, and how some lightsabers required battery packs, and you can witness the origin of popular Star Wars facets and how they develop or stall. You can see soldiers and weapons from aliens that are forgotten or diminished by the time of the original trilogy, and see how varied and unnerving they were. You get all sorts of little visual confirmations on why they might have been so feared at the time of the Old Republic, and why the powers that be that we see within the time frame of the movies were so desperate to have these outworlders vanquished. And frankly, everything, whether it's from a familiar faction or an exotic faction, just looks so cool. Battle armors for soldiers both conventional and force-sensitive are refined and perfected because this is a time of constant war and strife. Everything is familiar, but also amped up to keep with the theme of epic conflict and exotic scenery. Our heroes and villains are out to kill and look damn good while doing it. Which leads me to my third reason for loving the Old Republic. The Old Republic is the perfect marriage between the prequels and the classic movies, because the scale of the prequels is paired perfectly with the sense of adventure of the original movies. All the cultures that were showcased, or at least hinted at in the prequels, are present, and because they are developing and fighting against one another, well, the times are quite eventful and adventurous. New factions are rising and falling, worlds are being discovered, colonized, or even just strip-mined, and as a reader of the novels and comics, or maybe as a protagonist in the video games, you get thrown into the front lines of exploration, state intrigue, and, of course, wars of every scale. Stories might focus on a group of families trying to settle on an Outer Rim world, almost like the Old West of our real world. Archaeologists might unearth ancient technology from a lost civilization that once bent the Force to its will. And, of course, you might get a group of misfits flying across the galaxy in hopes of defying the Sith's latest grand plan. Mysteries and adventure of every scale can be found in the time of the Old Republic, and all with the classic sense of adventure and wonder. Now, my fourth reason for liking the Old Republic is simple. It was unapologetically for nerds. Video games, comics, some tabletop, and books were the main mediums of the Old Republic, and the only people who delved into those, really delved into them, were people with a passion for science fiction, fantasy, and a love for adventurous stories and epic lore. I won't say there wasn't any pandering, people wanted to make money after all, but there was a focus on who was being catered to. The Old Republic embraced new markets by catering to fans of all the nerdy genres and interests. Gamers, comic nerds, and book junkies could all transport themselves to the galaxy far, far away through whatever immersive medium they liked, and these stories brought new characters, mysterious worlds, and terrifying force powers to both old and new fans alike. Yes, we ate well. And there was never a need to twist Star Wars in order to cater to a demographic that never liked it in the first place. There was never a need to simplify the lore into something unrecognizable so that they could snag an audience that never liked sci-fi or space fantasy to begin with. Which, I suppose, brings me to my final reason for loving the Old Republic. So, what is it, my final reason? Well, the Old Republic era actually expanded on Star Wars. And what I mean by that is that it gave us more original Star Wars content without simply dredging up a mangled version of old ideas, and without trying to twist Star Wars into something it isn't. That isn't to say there weren't some crazy stories in the Old Republic. The Sith created all kinds of mutant abominations, the Republic Senate proved that they were always allergic to success, the Keldromas really needed to calm the hell down, and droids are used in many ways that are horrible and not safe for work. And yet, it was all done with respect for the Star Wars identity. The Old Republic stories and its continuity were all made with a respect for the original movies and the core story and narrative elements that made Star Wars what it once was. And for a long time, we got more Star Wars content without the need to just build off old stories, and certainly without the need to diminish those old stories in order to make new ones. Are you saying that all of the Old Republic stories were good? Well, amidst decades worth of content, from many different writers and mediums across a whole bunch of cultural upheavals happening all at once, yes, there will be some bad stories, and there were some bad stories. And you know what? People admitted that those stories were bad instead of trying to gaslight us and force them onto us like they were something good. And since the stories that were awesome were the ones that stuck around and got further expanded upon, the fans had a good time while the mythos was enriched. It was Star Wars, pure and simple, and we loved it. And those are my reasons for loving the Old Republic and the stories that it brought to Star Wars and Star Wars fans. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. Thank you so much for listening to this retrospective rant, and have a good one.